All right, guys, imagine having a conversation with your entire document library. Every PDF, every report, every CSV file, every export, every note you've ever taken, every piece of research you've ever saved. Not just for being able to find them based on keywords, but being able to actually ask it questions and get intelligent answers from an LLM such as OpenAI based on your own personal knowledge. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to build this type of system for yourself. So in this tutorial, we are going to be deep diving into the world of vector embeddings and document retrieval. So what we are going to go through, I am going to show you exactly how you can upload your own documents into a Google Drive folder that automatically get embedded into a vector database. We're going to be using Pinecone as our vector database. From there, I'm going to show you how you can query that information in a chat-like feature. So we're going to be able to actually have a chat with our notes like this. And we can actually see the entire workflow run through, and we'll be able to see actual answers, again, based on our own documents. I'm going to walk you through this entire system step by step. I'm going to assume that you are a beginner. So if you're not a complete beginner and you've maybe used this tool before, you've used N8N, you actually have Google Drive and things like that connected, you can skip forward into the tool. I will put a timestamp hopefully popping up on the screen right now telling you what timestamp to move forward through. But if you're actually a beginner, you've never connected to Google Drive, you tried to do it and it seemed kind of confusing and you gave up, well, this is going to be for you. I will leave no stone unturned. So there's going to be two pieces to this process. The first piece is going to be, how do we actually get our information into one of these vector databases, right? So there's a lot of different vector database options. First of all, if you don't know what a vector database actually is, it is how you're able to store, for lack of a better word, your information in a way that AI can retrieve it and access it and understand what's in it. And so there's a lot of different options out there for that. Some are open source, some are paid. The one I'm going to be showing you in this tutorial is called it's called Pinecone, which is a type of vector database, which I think is really easy to use, especially for beginners. And so that's the one that I like to teach people on. So what we're going to go through again is, how do we connect N8N to our Google Drive folders? How do we look for files being updated, files being created? And then how do we pass that into our database so that it can be stored in a way that an AI knows how to actually read that information and know what we're looking for? And then from there, we're going to have a second workflow automation that we can actually interact with this data with a basic question and answer chain. So that being said, we're going to start at the beginning. So first things first, we have two different nodes here that you'll see. One of these is for a file being created, and one of these is for a file being uploaded. Now, if we wanted to look at how do you actually create this thing to begin with, we can just right click on the screen and click add a node. And then we can come up here and we can look for our Google Drive. And so inside of here, tons of different actions that are supported, right? Deleting files, copying files, updating files, create folders, things like that. But then down here at the very bottom, we have this option for two different triggers that we can use. One of them is trigger on changes involving a specific folder, and then another one is on changes to a specific file. Okay, so if I was to click on this first one, changes involving a specific folder, we're going to have a few different options. But first things first, if you are a completely new user, you need to connect your credentials. Now, the thing that's I personally think kind of a little annoying about N8N is there's not a single sign-on that's supported for this. And so you have to come through and actually create your credentials in a Google Cloud account. Now, how do we do that? you obviously wouldn't have anything here. So you can come through, click on that, create new credential. And then you have two options. So you have OAuth 2 and you have service account. I'm going to show you how to use this OAuth 2. Okay. So by the way, N8N does have very good documentation. So if you ever need help with this, they have pretty good docs that are going to teach you what to do. So the first thing that you need to do is go to cloud.google.com. Okay. Cloud.google.com. And you're going to have to go through a little tiny sign up process. There will be like a start for free button in this top right hand corner. You click on that. It's going to ask you for your credit card and stuff like that, which is why I am already landed on this page. And it's going to spit you out right here. So you go in. It's not going to charge you anything, by the way. I'm pretty sure this tier is free for a very long time. And then you'll be, again, landed in a screen that looks something like this. And so what you need to do in order to get this connected to your N8N, you need to create a credential. And so what we need to do is we need to come up into this top left-hand corner, click the hamburger icon, go down to APIs and services, and then go down to OAuth consent screen. Okay. So first thing they're going to make you fill out, is this for internal or external use? This is obviously internal use because it is just us. We're not ever publishing this to, someone else to use or anything like that. So internal, give it a name. You have to use an email. You put a logo in there if you want to. App domain stuff you can fill out if you need to. Authorized domains, you don't really need any of that. You do need to put a developer email address in there. Save and continue. Okay. And then you're going to get into the section where you can add or remove scopes. And so what this is going to need access to is the Google Drive scope. So what you're going to need to do is click on this little link up here for the Google API library, which will pop us on over to here. And then you can just search for Drive. Or you just scroll down right there. It's right there. And then you need to enable this. And then we can go back into our OAuth consent screen that we were in. Okay, this is our app. We can just go back to edit it, scroll ourselves down, save and continue. We need to add our scopes to it. And so now when we're in here, we should see all the Google Drive API scopes. For this one, we honestly only need read only, I'm pretty sure. So let's just click just the read only scope right there. And again, that is the see and download all your Google Drive files. Save and continue. Now, what we need to do is we need to go back here and we need to give this OAuth redirect URL. Okay. So we're going to copy that right here. We're going to go, we're going to pop over into credentials, go to create credentials. And then we need to create a OAuth client ID. So you click on that, just say web application N8N. Okay, and now we're going to have this option here for authorized redirect URIs. I'm going to add URI, and we're going to paste in that link that we had. Okay. Then we are going to say create, and it's going to pop us onto a screen that has our client ID, which you need to copy, pop on back over, and paste it in. And then we are going to have our client secret. Go over, paste it in. And once you have done all of that, you can come on down here and say sign in with Google. And bada bing, bada boom. Your account should be successfully connected. Cool. So that is how you go through and create a create your actual access credential. What we're going to do from here is we are going to come on down to where it says trigger on, and we have this option for changes to a specific file or changes involving a specific folder. And so the first one we're going to create is changes involving a specific folder. And then what you want to do is click on this drop down, and you're able to actually pick from your authenticated Google Drive account. And so I have this folder in here that I created for showing you guys this stuff called AI Goodies and Tests. And so if we come back here and I was to start searching for that, there we go. Oops. And then watch for. Now, what do we want to watch for? Well, in the context of this, we want to either watch for a file being added in, right? So let's say I create a new file in this folder that I want to be able to actually reference. So we're going to say anytime a file gets created. And then our other trigger that we had earlier was anytime a file is updated, right? So we had both of those as options. So we pick file created. You can fetch a test event. And then boom, we can see this has all the cool data in there. Okay, so that was file created. For file updated, we would follow that same exact process. So boom, we go in, we put our credential in there, we pick the folder, and then we say, hey, we're looking for a file in this folder to be updated. The second step, if we come into this node that we have here, is we need to grab important data out, right? We need to take our file IDs out of here, and we need to do the next step based on those IDs. And so that is what we are doing right here. So there's this node that we have inside of N8N, and it is called, I think it's called edit fields. Edit fields. Set, add, or remove items from a field. Now, how do we actually use this? We need to have it connected to a node already, which is what we have back here. So it's saying it's going to have the input data being whatever hits it right here, which in this case is either of these two things triggering, will flow into this edit fields node. Okay, and so if we were to say execute previous nodes, boom, it's going to pull us in a bunch of examples, right? Boom, 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 boom. And so what we want to do here is we say we're going to do a manual mapping, and we are going to pull the field ID, or we're going to set rather the file ID as whatever the ID of this output was. So if we were to just scroll this, let's actually look at it not in a table form. If we were to look at it in a JSON form, and we came down here, there is a file ID right here, okay? And so we're telling it to reference that field. So that's what these, like this expression right here, where you have the bracket, $, JSON.ID, bracket, that is basically telling it, hey, go pull from right here, go pull this field. And so just to show you what it's like to actually create that, if we were to just empty it out, and I came in here and I typed in bracket, JSON, which is saying, hey, reference this whole object that we had right here. Then we say .id. And there we go. It's going to pull it through. Editing Sean here, coming at you with an update. I realized that my screen's a little cut off in a few spaces. And so I thought, let me hop in here and actually show you what I was pointing at in one or two situations. If we're looking at what we are at right in this very second right here, and I'm trying to show you guys some nodes, saying it has a file ID and all that, and you probably couldn't see anything about what I was talking about. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. So I think I might have been in this node. Yeah, I'm in this node. Right, so all of this on this side of the screen, let me confirm you guys can see it. Yeah, you can. Right, so file ID that I was talking about is right here. Okay, so my screen was chopped off there. I also noticed when I was showing the API credential connection that this left-hand side was chopped off. So there's really just two things you have to do. The first one is you have to do that OAuth consent screen, which you guys should have done. And then you need to go up to credentials, which is right above it. And that's where you create that other credential to get you back in there. I just wanted to clarify that. There's probably going to be a few other spots where something's like slightly cut off on the side. Apologies for that, but I'm not going to re-record the whole video. And so that would be true for any field that you were pulling off here. If I wanted to pull in the name of the, I don't know, quota bytes used, I would do JSON.quota bytes used, and it will pull that through. And so what it's doing is it's saying, hey, pull that value through, and I want you to map it to file ID. So I want the output from this stage to be an object that says file ID that has the file ID of the file that was just updated, okay? So what does it do from there? Well, from there, it goes out, and it says, hey, Google Drive, I actually want to download that file, okay? So again, we are adding a Google Drive node in here, and we are picking the node option for download, right? So we're going to pick our credential. We're going to say, hey, this thing is a file. What do I want to do? I want to download the file. Here's the ID. And then where are we pulling that from? Well, we're pulling it from the last step that we just had, right? This edit field step. And it's telling us, hey, one node back, you set this edit fields thing that outputs this. Is that what you're trying to grab right now? And we're going to say, yeah. Now, if you're not comfortable typing in all that stuff, you can also just do that and drag and drop it over, which is pretty cool. Pulls through the file ID. And then we're going to tell it, hey, I need you to also convert this into a .txt file. If you skip this step, the next step is going to not work the right way. And so we're going to say, hey, I want you to actually convert this file, again, into a text file. So any Google Docs I want converted into a text file is what it's going to do right here. Cool. So it does that. It downloads it. And then we tell the system, well, now I want you to extract all the information here. I want you to extract all of the information. And so if we were to go look, one of the files that I had in there just had the word foobar in it. And so that is where it's pulling from. So we're saying, hey, go back to that Google Drive node where you just downloaded everything. And now I want to extract all of the data out of that. Okay, I want to extract all the data out of it. So if I, again, test that step right here, I'm saying take in this data, extract text from a file, and then output it as data. Okay, and then last but not least, we have data somewhere. And so the tool that I like to use, again, is called Pinecone. Okay, Pinecone is a vector database tool. It is a cloud-based tool. You go over to pinecone.io and sign up. It is very easy to get going. So I'm not going to walk through that step. But all you would do is come through here, and we went into Pinecone Vector Store. You would go up here, create a new credential, and then all you have to do is put in an API key here, right? You just put your API key right in here and hit save. API keys can be generated from right inside your interface. So it's super easy. Just click on API keys and then hit create key, and you're off to the races. You just pull it right in. It's really easy to do. So we have that key. Boom. We're going to come in here. We're going to open. We're going to pick our account, and now our operation mode. Now here's a big thing that I want to clarify and point out. The thing you need to be aware of when you're working with any of these databases is the difference between inserting a document and updating a document. Okay, inserting a document versus updating a document. We are not going to use the insert documents function here. Why? Because we have down here file created and file updated. The nice thing about simply updating is if the ID doesn't exist, it creates it, right? So if I say, hey, update this document with this file ID, and it goes and it's like, hey, that document ID doesn't exist, it's just going to create it for me. Okay, it's just going to create it for me. And so that means I don't have to worry about having logic to look for, is this document already existing in the database? If it does, update it. If it doesn't create it, I can just say, hey, update it. It's a nice little shorthand. I'm sure if you're building a large-scale production app, that's probably not the most efficient thing to do, but that's what we're going to do here because it makes this whole logic a lot easier. So next thing you need to do, pick your Pinecone index. So indexes are going to be listed. That's what we were looking at right here. This would be an index. So the index in this example is N8N is the index. Cool. So we put that in there. And then we need to tell it what is the ID. What is the ID of this document that we're storing? And so we can just go back here, like I said earlier, where you can see how many nodes back you did something. We just go to the one where we set the field, and we can pull it through. And now it's saying go update it right there. And the last little piece here is you have to tell it how the embeddings are structured. And so inside of our Pinecone, when we created this configuration, I don't know if they show it in here to you anymore, actually. But you have to define right here, the embedding model. So we are using the OpenAI 3 small. And so you need to make sure that you are using the same one here. If you don't use the same type of embedding model, you'll get really shitty answers. And so boom, what do we have? Anytime we add to our folder, it's going to go through. It is going to update the file or create the file in the folder. It's going to download it, and it's going to store it into a vector database, which is pretty cool. But now what? Well, now we want to be able to actually talk with our database, right? We want to be able to talk with our database. And so I have a separate workflow set up for that. Now, first thing I'll say is there's tons of different ways that you could go about doing something like this. I'm going to show you a way that is pretty straightforward and should kind of illustrate to you the type of stuff that you can do with this technology. It's not necessarily the most robust thing in the world, but it's still pretty cool. And so one of the things that's cool about N8N is that you can trigger your workflows based on a chat message being received, which is what we have right here. So we could say, you don't even have to go in and configure that really. So what does that mean? It means when I come down in here, let's see if I can clear that out. I have this little chat bubble that can be used to serve as a trigger. So let's go back to my document real quick. So you got to imagine this is all embedded now into that Pinecone database because I inserted this as a document into this folder, right? So now it's in my database, and I should be able to query it and ask questions, and the system should be able, or the system that we're about to build, should be able to go out, see everything that's in here, and then give us answers based on that. And so what this is it's training data basically on how human beings really operate. So this is based on some old school copywriting greats and what their theories and trainings were. So for example, in this specific document, we're talking about people's desires. So what do people want to gain? What do they want to be? What do they want to do? What do they want to save? And then what do they want to avoid? And then we have this big list of examples of common desires. And so let's go use that, knowing that that's in there. We could say, say I'm building a software app that's meant to help SaaS founders be more productive in the workplace. What are some common desires that I would want to call out in my marketing material? Okay, and this is an end case use. I'm going to show you how we build all this in a second, but just so you can see what it is doing. Boom. So what it did was it went through, and we can actually see that in this chain. It went through, it queried our vector database with this query. The vector database said, hey, this page with this content matches that query the best. Okay, it's saying that matches it the best. And then passes that to our OpenAI chat model and says, hey, taking into account all of this stuff down here, so basically went and pulled that document, right? Pulled that document out and said, based on this, answer this question that the user has. Okay, and then it gave it the question that I had asked. So chat message comes through. We don't even have to do anything with that. That's pretty straightforward. Now we have a bunch of different ways that we can handle this. You could create an agent that has access to tools. You could do a few different things, but N8N has this built-in question and answer chain node, which is really easy to work with. And so that's what I'm going to show you guys. And so we can come through and we can pick that question and answer chain node. Again, if you needed to do that, you can go to add node, advanced AI, and then there's these different options in here, right? So you could just send a message to OpenAI. You can do a basic LLM chain. You can do all these different things. I chose question and answer chain. Okay. And now we're going to show you how we configured that right here. So we go in. So prompt source for the user message is obviously going to be the previous node's information, which in this case is what? It's this chat. So it says, hey, I'm going to take whatever came through from the chat, and that's what I'm sending to the LLM as the user's message. All right, that is what I'm going to send. Obviously, not obviously. Well, we're going to hop in and look at the two different pieces that we have. So if we go back to our canvas, we have this question and answer chain. We need to come in and we need to create our model or define the model that's going to be used. So we come in here. This is where we would put in our OpenAI credentials that we have. And then we would select the model that we want it to use, right? So in this case, I'm using 4.0 mini, but you could really use anything that you want, depending on the type of answer that you're looking for. For example, I could do a 1 preview. Okay. So that's really all you have to do for the chat model piece. And then we have this other option, which is, hey, the retriever. Where am I retrieving the base information for this from? Where am I going to go out and pull the information for this from? And so we go to vector store retriever. We open that up. So this limit of 4, maximum number of results that your vector database will actually return to you, right? Because if you think about it, in this example, I have 3 files in here, but say I had 30. Well, we don't want to return all 30. We want to return the most similar ones. And so that's telling it to cap you at 4, okay? And then we're telling it, okay, well, I'm going to cap it at 4, but where is it actually stored? And so we're using Pinecone. And so we're going to add that Pinecone node, and we're going to say, I want you to retrieve documents for me from the specific index that we had stored the documents in, just like that. And then we're going to say the embedding model that we used. So the embedding model in this case is the text embedding 3 small. And so based on all of that information, it is able to go out and do the following. You send in a chat message asking it a question. Boom, it hits the question answer chain, and it goes out to the vector store. It passes the user query in, goes to the vector store, queries the Pinecone vector with the actual question that you had, looks at or generates the embeddings from the query, returns the result, right? It returns the best result up here. And then it tells OpenAI, hey, use this information in part of your response. That is basically what this chain of events look like. And we can see that when we look at our executions. So if we go into that last execution that we had, actually we can see it, you know what, in a better spot in the chat flow, right? So we saw, again, right here, where we go through and we ask it a question. Here's the query. That was an input, right? The vector store receiver took this as an input, and then it output to us the top 4 matching documents. Obviously, 2 of these documents were terrible, but one of them was really good. And so it gave us that information from Pinecone, right? And then it passes it back to OpenAI, and it gives it this little system prompt. It says, use the following to answer the question. It gives it the context, and then it says, this is what the human asked, right? And then the LLM goes out and does its thing, and it gives you the output. So that is it. So I hope you guys found that video helpful. I'm going to be putting out more videos like this in the future. If there's any sort of specific tools or workflows that you would want to see, leave them as a comment, and I will use them as fuel for my next few videos. So that being said, I will see you in the next video.